I was told to check out Mark Driscoll, and I was glad that I was told to check him out, because I knew the name was a big name in certain evangelical circles. I was not prepared for what I would see. I have to admit, I was not prepared at all for what I saw. Now, never mind doctrine. There's some doctrine he has right, some doctrine he has wrong. I'm not even touching doctrine per se, but there's a licentiousness. He has what amounts to a sex column on his website. And he has links. Now, say someone asks a vulgar question. You know, one time, and I'm going to be careful, I can't expose the man fully without being imprudent myself. I'm just going to have to give you the general thrust, and you'll have to trust me, or you'll have to investigate it on your own, which the computer does make a pretty easy thing to do. One time I got a pamphlet from URI. I never attended URI, but they sent me a pamphlet. And the pamphlet, well, I don't remember the exact title, but what the pamphlet was a description of the things that sodomites do to each other. And it may be listed 10 or 12 activities that they engage in physically with each other. And it would basically, the point of this bulletin, or whatever it was, this pamphlet, the point of the pamphlet was to tell you how to practice these things safely so that you don't end up with some disease or harmed. And that liberal URI, what do you expect? So I get this thing in the mail, not really knowing what it is. I open it up, and these are the 10 or 12 things that sodomites do. Well, I mean, I'm not operating in those circles. And I sort of had an idea of one or two things that they would do, because popular culture is just there. I mean, you'd hear it in grammar school. Even then, I didn't believe it. I thought kids were joking and lying. It took me till I was like in 8th grade to actually realize these people exist. They're not kidding. As soon as I hear talk like that, I'd turn around and walk away. As a young Christian man, I was saved at a relatively young age, 9 years old. And so that was back in the, and that's back in the late 60s, early 70s. Well, I'm looking at these things that sodomites do, and they're just little bullet points. Well, there was the couple of things I thought they did, they were listed. But then the balance of the things that I had no idea existed, that was so shockingly perverse and vulgar, they seem to me as though they have nothing to do at all with a physical attraction between two human beings. They seem to me to be activities that were just pure, it stemmed from pure unadulterated evil. It's not as though it was a sexual activity that was forbidden, say like fornication or even adultery. One man should not be with another man's wife. But that doesn't mean there isn't a natural attraction physically. If you hone in on that aspect of the woman or the man, you could be tempted to sin. But it's a natural temptation as far as the physical human being is concerned. But the things I was seeing described in this pamphlet, and I already knew the first two items that I sort of figured that sodomites did, those were perverse in and of themselves, in a grotesque way, and made me nauseous to think about. But when I read these other things that I never had any idea, I couldn't have sat around at a kitchen table and have invented these things. They seemed to me like pure, unadulterated evil. It was appalling to read that people would do this to each other. Men or women, or whatever. Too horrifying for me to talk about. Disgusting. Things that I am sure majority of you watching or listening to me right now, you have no idea because you don't go there. I don't go there. That came to my mail. I got it that one day, and I could not believe it. Well, I remembered that. That was many, many years ago that I received that in my mailbox. I would guess 20 years ago. 25 years ago. Going to Mark Driscoll's website and reading his columns concerning sexual matters, all these same items are brought up again, and to varying different degrees, from his perspective, they're allowed, so long as it's between a husband and a wife. I can't go there. I can't give you a detail. I wouldn't want to give you one detail on any of those things. I was looking at evil. You've got to understand. I was looking at evil, and he was promoting it. I will not keep quiet about something so base and vile in the middle of what's supposed to be the Christian community when so many won't speak up about it. When you read his, so people will be asking questions. Is it all right to do this biblically? And they mention something that's horrifying, that you and I have never even thought of. Anybody doing these kind of things. And they would say, can we do this as Christians? And his response would be, well, it's dangerous. It's unsanitary. You've got to be careful. You've got to go slow. But technically, yeah, it's fine, as long as you're both in agreement. That's sort of his view. It seems to me in almost anything you can suggest. And he goes into detail about it. And as he gives these answers online, he will mention other websites that you should check out. And those websites are highlighted in his article that he wrote. You can click on them. And it brings you to these other websites. And they're supposedly Christian websites. There were some, I couldn't believe them. They were Christian sites of perversion. How a husband and wife, I don't even want to give you the names of any of the sites because I don't want you going there. If you do that on your own by researching this, that's up to you. But I don't even want to give it over the air. I don't want any kids listening to me and then going there. But I clicked on some of these because this guy claims to be a Christian minister. And I say, what is he doing? What is this? I click on it. I couldn't believe what I saw. Once is all it takes. Don't need to go back. And on these Christian websites where they promote any aberration and abomination, as long as it's between a husband and wife, they not only give advice, but they sell things. How can I say that tactfully? Hardware. Perverted appliances that are meant for distorted people with unimaginable evil minds. And all those things are sold in a little Christian store, little online store. Just the name of some of these sites are offensive, and I don't want to give them to you. They're sexually explicit. They sell things in there. At the first page, you look at it for 5 seconds, that's enough, you close it. But in 5 seconds, you see things that you didn't even know existed. Statements that he would make about God's Word that were vulgar. Some of his interpretation of the Song of Solomon is pure evil, it's vileness. I don't even want to give you his interpretations. I've got some references that I marked down. I'm not going to go there. I don't even want to suggest what he was saying about certain texts. Now he could twist it. Larry Flint, if he wanted to turn the Bible into a perverted, evil, wicked sex manual, he might go to the Song of Solomon. And the Song of Solomon can be very graphic in its descriptions of the physical attraction and love of a wife for her husband and the husband for the wife. And I understand that, and that's fine. That's okay. That's all biblical. But he actually takes some of these things in their generic form and interprets them in a specific way that causes us to believe that Solomon is promoting acts of vileness and perversion. I mean acts that could, in former days, would get you arrested. I can't make peace with it. And if you can, you've got a spiritual problem that's bigger than you imagine. I don't even think this needs to be repudiated. It just needs to be exposed. If you need me to repudiate it for you, the chances are ye must be born again. That's the problem. So after looking at that and then reading some of the things he says from the Bible, his irreligious treatment of actual Bible characters that I don't even want to go into, there is no fear of God in that man. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm saying strong statements without giving specifics to back it up. I can't give you specifics. Do you understand me? I, in good conscience, cannot give you specifics. If you want to go pursue them to see that I'm telling the truth, then go ahead and pursue it. But I warn you, you're going to be shocked. When you deal with Mark Driscoll, it's like dealing with a pornographer. And once that pornography is put in your mind, it's a stain that's hard to remove the image. Now, he didn't have any pornographic pictures or anything like that, at least that I came across, in checking them out for about the period of 45 minutes. That's all it takes. Doesn't even take that, really. So I didn't see any explicit photos, that kind of thing. It's what he's saying, his subject matter, and what he's saying the Bible allows. There was one instance in where a woman was, she asked him a question. Well, let's see. Her husband, this woman's husband, these are people that went to his church. Well, at least she went to the church. This woman's husband wanted her, his wife, to perform an abominable act. That is, an abominable act. She always said no. This is wrong. She went to Mr. Driscoll's church. He preached about it from the pulpit and said, oh, see, that specific act is right here. Solomon would do it. It's right here in the Song of Solomon. Here it is. And then he'd give a perverted interpretation of an innocent text and turn it into a Larry Flint highlight, a hustler moment of the week from God's Word. And he taught the women of the assembly that they need to please and satisfy their husbands. And Solomon says to do this, you go and do it. So when your husband comes home and he walks through the door, then, well, that's what she did. When her husband found out that she learned to do that which she had resisted for so long by going to her church, he was all in favor of going to that church, and he was there the next Sunday, been there ever since. Those are the kind of people he's filling up that meeting with.